Well, good morning. This is Jonathan Blaze here from the National Weather Service in Raleigh, and we wanted to thank everyone for joining us for our weekly impact weather briefing for Central North Carolina. We'll be covering the rest of this week through Sunday. We have an active week coming up with a series of weather systems, actually primarily a frontal system that will approach our area and slowly move across it. That will result in an increase in threat of unsettled weather and lingering precipitation in through much of the work week. Before we get to that, we'll have some heat and humidity and maybe things quieting down for the weekend. So let's take a closer look at our weather maps here. In the upper left, we have a look at the weather map for early this week. We have some unsettled weather in the Midwest, but over us we have high pressure kind of lingering over our area, and that will result in a mainly dry regime for today into early tomorrow. There could be an isolated shower or storm develop along the sea breeze, and more likely some develop in the mountains that could drift into our western Piedmont locations out near the Triad. Coverage is expected to be very limited, and impacts from those should be quite minor as well. Otherwise, just some high clouds moving across the area for the rest of the day today. As we head into Tuesday and Wednesday, a cold front will begin to approach the region from the north and west. It'll move slowly south and east. That front will likely cross into the Carolinas beginning sometime on Wednesday, and then toward later in the week it will stall near the Carolina coast. This time of year, it's typically hard for fronts to make a lot of progress to the south and east and move much further than the coastline. Some of the forecast guidance is quite aggressive in pushing the front well south of our area. Experience has shown that might be a foolhardy decision, so we tend to think that that front will linger near our area as we head into much of the week. What that means for us, though, is as the front approaches on Tuesday, we expect some thunderstorms to develop in the Ohio Valley, and those will push south and east, and it could be a strong line of storms that moves across the mountains late in the afternoon that could work its way into our western and northwestern Piedmont during the evening and late evening hours. A few of those storms could be strong as they approach the area, with that convection likely weakening during the course of the evening. However, the next day on Wednesday, the front will be likely right over us, and it will provide a focus for widespread showers and thunderstorms, some with some strong gusty winds as well, and heavy rain. And that front will slip south and east, probably closer toward the coast on Thursday and especially Friday, so the rain threat will tend to shift south and east, and the focus for the heaviest and strongest weather actually down toward the coastal plain and the coastal region by the end of the work week. We think by this weekend, high pressure will kind of extend into our area. The front will tend to weaken, and hopefully things will quiet down for those of us who have the weekend off and have activities planned. But before the front approaches, it's important to note that we will have some pretty high heat index values on Tuesday and Wednesday as a southerly flow pumps in lots of humidity ahead of the front. Tomorrow, we expect heat index values to approach 100 across the northern tier near the North Carolina-Virginia border and in much of the Piedmont, with some low 100s possible down toward the Sandhills and the Fayetteville and Goldsboro area. It'll likely be considerably even more humid on Wednesday, and that will result in heat index values near or above 100 for just about everybody, with some locations to the south and east of Raleigh with heat index values approaching 105 in places like Goldsboro and Fayetteville. That typically is borderline threshold for us to issue a heat advisory, so we'll be monitoring that today and tomorrow. But the big story there is that the heat and humidity will increase, and it'll feel quite warm and humid, and dangerously so potentially on Wednesday afternoon. For the severe thunderstorm potential, again, just limited coverage of thunderstorms in the western part of the state today near the mountains, and maybe a few near the sea breeze. And that is for today, Monday. For tomorrow, there's a enhanced area of severe weather possible up near the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore area. And that, again, is ahead of the approaching cold front. A small area of slight risk extends into northwestern North Carolina, and that's mainly to accommodate thunderstorms that'll be developing further west and pushing into the area late in the day, which is a limited chance of severe weather, places like the Triad and western parts of the Triangle. So keep an eye out for that, but it looks like any severe weather threat tomorrow will be limited primarily to the border counties in the northwest Piedmont, and also very late in the day. So those of you with outdoor plans in the afternoon through around the evening rush, probably no threat really there. That front will sink south And the severe weather outlook for Wednesday has the greatest threat of strong to potentially severe weather across the southern tier of North Carolina as the front sets up down in this region. And that will mean that while we may have thunderstorms across much of the area on Wednesday, severe weather with damaging winds, hail, and tornado appears to be much more limited. It's worth noting, though, that because of the front and its slow motion, and the fact it's going to be kind of leaning across the area from northeast to southwest, with storms likely moving northeastward up along the front, this could result in some enhanced areas of rainfall and potential for repeated showers and thunderstorms to impact the same location. Because of that, we expect rainfall amounts could be heavy locally, producing some localized flooding perhaps on Wednesday into Thursday. Wednesday's probably the stormiest day with the greatest coverage of showers and thunderstorms and the heaviest rain. By the time we get to Thursday, that shifts further south and east, like we mentioned, as the front pushes east. So the greatest threat on Thursday and perhaps Friday, but most likely Thursday, would be from Fayetteville and Goldsboro to the south and east. For the weekend, the precipitation forecast here just shows very limited amounts, as we expect high pressure to kind of quiet things down. But still, we're not completely sold on a storm-free weekend, but we think the probabilities and the coverage will be very much more limited. So Wednesday and Thursday likely the stormiest days for most of us. The tropics right now remain quite quiet across the Atlantic. There are several systems in the Pacific Ocean, and some of the computer guidance suggests that there's not likely to be much in the way of disturbances or potential areas of concern in the Atlantic Ocean really for the next several days, even into next week. Those things can change, so expect everybody to be on their guard, especially as we begin to approach the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season as we head into September. And looking ahead for the 8 to 14 day outlook, the temperature outlook as we head into the third week of August looks like a temperature is more likely to be above normal with equal chances or so of normal precipitation. So not a real strong signal here for a wet period and potentially an indication of temperatures being at or above normal, which is pretty much what it's been across our area for the past several weeks. So looking at a quick summary for the week ahead of the front, we expect elevated heat index values of 100 to perhaps as high as 106 possible across parts of the area on Tuesday, and the hottest weather likely on Wednesday, especially toward the coastal plain and the sandhills. Storm chances will increase across the northwest near the Virginia border and the northwest Piedmont late Tuesday, and across much of central North Carolina on Wednesday and Thursday. Some strong, potentially severe storms are possible on Tuesday, especially to the north and west. And area-wide, we'll say on Wednesday, but the threat of the intensity actually goes down. So while the coverage may be better on Wednesday, we don't expect the storms nearly to be as juicy or strong. Certainly wet and heavy with the heavy rain, but perhaps not as much of a severe threat. And again, don't overlook the threat of heavy rain and possible flooding issues, especially in poor drainage areas, urban areas, on Wednesday into Thursday. Again, rain chances should decrease as we head into the weekend. It'll be hot and humid for the first part of the week. High temperatures will drop back into the upper 80s, looks like late this week and the weekend, which is pretty much near normal, but it'll feel a little cooler for many of us. And again, the tropics remain quiet. So I'll stand by here in case anyone has any questions for the next few moments. Otherwise, we want to thank you for listening in to our briefing and hope everybody has a good week.